67 years. Now we are down, and David will know it better, to 10, 15 years. It is believed that 95% of all data ever created on this planet was created in the last 2 years. And many of us are addicted to it, right? 40% of Germans are saying, I cannot put my mobile phone away anymore at night when I really want to. And then others say, yet, probably the world will never ever change as slow as it is today. And you can make the point here at the World Economic Forum, it's all about artificial intelligence. I just sat on a panel, they were saying, well, in 2030, 80% of the jobs will be jobs we don't even know yet today. Well, that tells us something on what's to come. So then what is Agile really at its core? Of course, we have to be fast. I experienced it this morning. I had to run to reach this session. But just being fast is not enough. Sometimes we run just out of ambition, out of greed, out of pressure. We need to combine speed with inner calm, with awareness, to take the right decisions, to be innovative, to be creative. And today's business is all about innovation. And there I'm so grateful, immensely grateful to the cultural heritage of India, who brought meditation and yoga to this world, because I think that helps us to find the inner stability in this crazy, crazy world. So let's hear more from the experts. And I would like to start, David, with you. Leading IMD, of course, you are taking organizations through change. You are shaping the leaders of tomorrow. And, you know, David, Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar says that the wise ones neither get stuck in the old nor jumps into the new without awareness. They take the best of both and create something greater out of the old and the new. And so I would like to ask you, what does it really take to have agile organizations? Obviously, we can say to have agile organizations, we need agile leaders. We need leaders with an agile mindset. But how can leaders develop an agile mindset? How can we support them? How do you support them with your institution? And how can they foster such agility in their organizations while ensuring they contribute to the forums, the World Economic Forum's, for example, objectives, such as building a more inclusive and human-centered digital economy? David.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. And you described a world of rapid change and the need for stability and inner peace and calm. And I think one of the reasons why we're so excited to work with friends and partners in India is because in many ways India represents this fast, dynamic economy. I was in Delhi in December. I met with business leaders and political leaders. But at the same time that there was this breathtaking speed of change, there was this sense of purpose, this unity, that optimism that we increasingly lack in Europe. So we're delighted to be working with so many friends and partners in India. You partially answered the question yourself. What does it take for agile organizations to operate? And you said it must be about agile leaders, and that's absolutely right. Leaders play a disproportionate role in shaping the culture of the organization. We can talk about some of the formal processes that you might use to make your organization more agile, but at the end of the day, if leaders don't demonstrate agile leadership themselves, if they don't make themselves vulnerable, if they don't empower, if they don't remain flexible, then you're not going to be able to achieve agile organizations. So we can talk a little bit more about what some of these attributes of these agile leaders are. I mentioned a few of them right now. But the important thing is, as you said, it is something that you can learn. You can design learning interventions, and we do this at IMD, where you challenge people, where you do the inside out and the outside in set of challenges, where you put them in new situations, where you coach them, where you leverage diversity of teams, where leadership rotates over the course of certain activities. And that doesn't mean that people walk out of it, you know, suddenly as an agile leader, but you get a sense of what it looks and feels like when you work and lead in agile ways. And I'm delighted to say that more and more organizations all around the world and more leaders are embracing this approach to leadership, because, as you say, the world is changing ever faster. Leaders are not expected to have all the answers, but leaders are expected to set the context in which their teams can find the answers.
That's a very interesting thought, David. So the leader not only or not anymore needs to have or has necessarily the answers, is not anymore maybe the experts who just structures the processes, but actually creates an environment where we can use the collective wisdom, right? Where we bring the people to be able their best version of themselves. How do you do that? What would be maybe one piece of advice to all of us who would love to do that with our teams?
I mean, the easiest way to say this is just try it. Just see what happens in a meeting when you ask the question. When you come in with that kind of vulnerability and say, you know what, I don't know what is going to happen next. What do you all think? And then there are small symbolic things. I'll give you just a small example. I assumed this role in September, and I'm working very much on my own leadership development. And, you know, we have conference tables, and I make it a rule that I never sit at the head of the table. You know, I sit in a different seat around the table every single time. Nobody knows where I'm going to sit in a particular meeting. Somebody at some point always takes the head of the table. Again, that alone does not make for agile leadership, but you're communicating that my role here is to be a facilitator of a process. We're going to be a little bit on our feet. We're not, you know, in sort of set ways in the way we go about this. So symbolism is important, but then again, you know, ask with a question, convey your own vulnerability, and it becomes empowering to your team.
Well, that's truly inspiring. That I don't know becomes beautiful when we share it with everybody else. Now, Pablo, I really don't know how you do what you're doing. You're making 600,000 people healthy and happy. And I think that's absolutely important to be agile, right? It's very difficult to be the best version of ourselves when we are stressed. And I have heard you many times saying that leaders need to live by example. I've heard you quoting that example of the oxygen mask, right? When we go to the airplane, we are all asked, in case of emergency, to put the oxygen mask first, because if we are not well, we cannot help others. Could you let us a little bit in? What are your core values at DHL? How do you do that?
Thank you, Christoph, and thank you for the invitation. An honor to be here with all of you. So it started 20 years ago when we began asking ourselves how we can build a culture that will be irrespective of any changes, perduring and being resilient and adaptive. And that's why we ask ourselves, what is it? Not only that, what is going to change? It's very difficult to predict what is going to change with precision, right? I think that we are all masters of predicting what happened, but not, you know, that clear on what will happen. And that's why we ask ourselves, what are those things that we're certain that are not going to change? And that's, you know, where we began putting specific content to how we wanted to build the culture of DHL. Elements like respect and results, right? Those are two foundations that we deliver results without compromising respect. And then each of these ones, we took it to the next level of detail in order to understand when you go to a warehouse, how do you see that the manager, the supervisors are behaving with that principle of respect and result. Our purpose is connecting people, improving lives. Of course, we connect people through packages. We are very, I would say, analog company. We, you know, in the times of AI, we still deliver packages, right? And we will continue delivering packages for a long time, hopefully. So we connect people through that, but also we connect people through the daily interactions in our workplace, how we support the communities where we operate. That's why our purpose is 50% divided between what we do at work and what we do outside of work. How do we help the communities where we operate? I remember, you know, a long time ago, I was building houses for people in need in Latin America, and the local community member there was every now and then calling DHL, DHL, DHL. And we were all looking, you know, around saying, well, what's going on? It was a Saturday, right? So we were all building these houses with the help of the local community. And suddenly again, after 2 minutes, DHL, DHL, DHL. And I said, why are we calling DHL, DHL, DHL? I was in Spanish, right? DHL, DHL, DHL. And it was, one of the dogs was named DHL, DHL. Because one of the couriers in that community was working for us. And that's, you know, what, you know, it's magic about engaging and helping these communities. And that's, you know, how we think about what is not going to change and how we can operationalize it. Every company can have in their manifesto, in their PowerPoint, all of these principles. The key is that then how do you take it every day, everywhere, by everyone. And that's where the operationalization of these things is also as equally important as starting at the top, defining these principles. Then how do we put in place elements for making it happen every day, everywhere? So I'm going to stop there. Maybe I answered the question, the second question that you had about the mask. You want me to answer it now or later?
Yeah, it would be super interesting.
Okay, because I'm going to keep it brief so as to give the other team members time to talk. But yeah, you and I have discussed, I have this mantra, which is, building on the safety briefing that you have when you go on a plane, that, the safety briefing talks about you need to put your own mask first before helping someone else. And that is a mantra and a principle that we also embody very much in the company, which is if you don't start every day putting time to put your own mask first and check in how you're, from a physical, mental, spiritual point of view, and sometimes could feel a little bit selfish. I'm pretty sure that if you ask the average person attending here, the World Economic Forum, how many do start the day by spending, some time for themselves? Maybe there might not be that many. And that's a principle that, again, is very important to make sure that we need to be first ourselves in a good place in order to help other ones.
I couldn't agree more. I think I'm reminded of Sri Ravi Shankar saying, if we want to manage others, we first need to lead ourselves. And I think that's very complex. I mean, every day, all of us, we have about 6,000 thoughts. Neuroscientists say, and none of these thoughts are knocking at our head and asking, can I come in, right? Suddenly they are there, and then self-management starts. Well, I think, Your Excellency, you have a lot of management this week. Many ministers, chief ministers have come to Davos. And it's great that you're here with us, nevertheless, in this session. I would like to ask you, as nations collaborate on shared global goals, the World Economic Forum obviously highlights the importance of diplomacy and partnership. Now, how can we bridge, by your experience, divides, foster trust, and accelerate progress towards the forum's collective vision for a better future? Would you maybe like to share, is my request, any of your personal experiences in diplomacy where agile leadership helped in achieving an important goal?
Very good morning. Thank you, Christoph, for coming up with this idea of having this session. And we are very delighted that we have Honorable Minister from India. He's the youngest minister in the Union Cabinet. And I think Indian civil aviation is on the right path under his guidance and leadership. You have another extraordinary thought leader in David, whom you have invited here. Thank you, David, for coming here. And of course, Pablo, you are leading by example. So we are very lucky to have this wonderful panel here this morning. And I'm also very delighted to have this partnership with IMD and your good self. And of course, the art of living. How do you see agile leadership? Is it about reacting to situations, foreseen, unforeseen, and making the best out of it, giving a very, very nice answer to the situation? Or is it about looking at that entirety of situation with awareness, as you described yesterday, the awareness of how we are operating, in what environment we are operating, and then anticipating, planning, and looking at, in a forward-looking manner, finding genuine solutions to the challenges that we all face. And this is a collective effort. I'll give you, for example, I'll talk about something which we started in India as an experiment, but it created a huge digital infrastructure, which is one of its kind in the world, and which has now become a gold standard in terms of giving service delivery by the government to our people. In 2009, we started the process of building a biometric database for our entire population, 1.4 billion people. This is by far the biggest exercise undertaken by any country in the world to map the entire population. Now, why do you need to map the population? Our leadership at that point in time thought that unless you know the quantum of the problem, you cannot find the genuine, good, efficient, workable solutions. So we started this process, and it was taking a bit of a time because our people are all over the place, and to have biometrics done for everybody and putting this database, which is with 7 layers secure and not penetrable, was a huge, tremendous task. Came 2014, and we have this extraordinary leader in Prime Minister Narendra Modi, And he thought that it's not only Aadhaar that we need to do to get the database. What do you do with the database at the end of the day? So you have to have an instrument, and you also have to have a purpose. So one of the purposes that came to the mind of our new leadership at that point in time was how I deliver my services. So, for example, the direct benefit transfer, the provision of subsidies to the poorest of the poor. Now, there was a lot of pilferage, a lot of inefficiency embedded into the system, the way the system was functioning. So the purpose was how we transfer that subsidy direct from the government exchequer to an individual's account who is most vulnerable part of the society. And you will be surprised that the poorest of the poor don't have bank accounts. So he decided that I will have each and every household having one bank account, even if there is no money in that bank account. And what happens is once the bank accounts are open, then we will transfer the money directly without having any bureaucratic hurdles in between. So you can believe that 500 million bank accounts in a span of 6-7 years was one of the most stupendous tasks that any country has undertaken. And this is by far the biggest exercise on financial inclusion. And then came the instrument. So you have a purpose, you have a database, but what is the instrumentality? And we were very lucky at that point in time. We had the advent of cheap mobile phone telecommunications. And again, India is the leader in that system also. We have by far the cheapest rates of telecom in our country. So we have, at present, we have 750 million smartphones, 1.2 billion mobile phones. And now you have the instrument at hand. And of course, our creative energy, which comes from the state of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, Hyderabad, for example, more in particular, they started creating those smart apps. Now you see, we have got a purpose. And again, this is all about awareness. How do you look at the entirety of the problem? And you want to have a solution which goes beyond the normal call of the duty. And this is called the Agile leadership, in my opinion. So we have got this JAM Trinity, Jan Dhan, which is the bank account, Aadhaar, which is the biometric 1.4 billion people database. And then we have got the mobiles, 750 million mobiles, smartphones. So once you have got the purpose, the instrument, and the database at hand, which is again by far the largest exercise any country has undertaken in this scenario, we have things which are sort of unintended consequences of what you have done. So now we have a platform where I can provide you almost zero cost transactions, financial transactions. We call it unified payment interface. Last year, we had 160 billion transactions at literally zero cost to the customer. And these amount to about $2 trillion. So a process which started in 2014 by looking at how I provide direct benefit transfers without any pilferage from the system has now moved into a mass movement where you have extraordinary digital financial inclusion for each and everybody in the country. And you see how it again moves on. So now our systems have been replicated by countries like France, Singapore, UAE, which are at the forefront of this technological revolution. So the point I'm trying to make here, Christoph, is when you are aware of the circumstances in which you're operating, and when you look at the entirety of the thing, and when you are calm, and when you're not bothered about, I am looking at 5 years down the line. My Prime Minister's vision is about 2047. He's not talking about, I need to sustain my government for the next 5 years. So when you have a leadership which talks about future beyond anybody else, and which talks about future with the total awareness of the components of the ecosystem in which he is operating, then I think this is the best example of agile leadership.
Thank you so much for laying that out so so clear. And actually, it makes me think this is exactly the type of leadership we need at this moment in Europe. I think many of our governments are really just concerned about their own legacy, but not thinking of the greater good for the country, the nation. Well, Your Excellency, it's a real honor that you took the time, that you are with us. Now, we just heard India is indeed at the forefront of so many transformations in the world. Almost 1 billion people are connected to the internet, which is incredible. You're leading technology in the airspace and in many other domains. How would you say has Agile leadership contributed to India's ability to innovate so fast, so well, to grow at an incredible speed, right? While simultaneously addressing global priorities and really being part of this global world we are.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's a wonderful opportunity for a young leader from one of the fastest growing nations to be having the opportunity to participate in WEF. And I would like to thank my Honorable Prime Minister for giving me the opportunity. And it, in fact, gives a glimpse about how India is trying to promote young leadership also. It is one of the most important aspects of agile leadership is how do you bring in the new generation connected into the leadership sector. That becomes a very important point. And on top of that, when you come to India, it's not about having the leadership agile, but the entire ecosystem, the whole people, everyone is agile there. Yeah. That makes it much more easier for us. And the fact that I say it is, if you look globally, all the top companies, they have Indians at one level or the other. And in some places, you have right at the top, CEOs of many of the companies. And when you talk about that, most of the opinion goes to the tech companies, where obviously there is a natural advantage for India with the advantage in maths and English as a country that we have, and we have the natural ability to lead in technology. But you look at other companies which are into medicine, which are into customer services, a lot of different things we are able to lead now. So that makes us come to the point that the people themselves naturally are very agile, and when you break the agility of Indians, I think it comes to three important points, which is the preparedness, the awareness, and the responsiveness. So there are many different aspects to look at agility, and I think this clearly defines the way Indians look at things. They are always aware of things naturally, because the environment is so dynamic there, even if it is local environment. With so many things. First of all, you have so many people in the environment, and you're dealing with so many people. You're dealing with so many different kinds of mentalities, attitudes, disciplines, cultures, religions. And that gives you the tolerance and the awareness of all so many different things that could be in the whole world itself. And on top of that, the reactiveness, because for them, unless you react, unless you're prepared to react, it becomes very, very difficult for you to move forward. So the adaptability is a very important factor for Indians, and that is why you see no matter where you go in the world, you'll find Indians working there or Indians living there. And the most important factor of that is they're not hated by the local community there. They find a way to coexist, collaborate, and peacefully run the show in those countries together. And when it comes to action also, I think we have seen some courageous people emerge from India who can take those important decisions. And I would also like to take the example of our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi ji. And one example that I'll quickly give you is during the COVID time. And COVID has hit many different countries. It was an equally challenging topic for most of the countries. And in fact, developing countries, it was much bigger challenge. And when you have 1.4 billion people, and imagine the challenge that you would have when such a huge pandemic hits you. But he had the awareness, he had the preparedness, and he had the responsiveness, the quick call to action. And if I can give you a number, 2.2 billion doses in 2 years, 97% of the eligible population which needs to get the dose got the dose. And I'm talking about not one, but 2 doses also. So imagine the kind of preparedness and the responsiveness that you should have to get that achieved in that emergency kind of situation. So that is an example of the way Indians look at things and how they're prepared and adapting to the changing circumstances that the world is throwing at us. And I've seen that in multiple occasions. I've seen this kind of leadership flow all the way down to rural areas where we have these systems called panchayats. And the sarpanches there, which lead the panchayat or the village politics there, they equally show this kind of responsiveness when they are trying to, when I say at that level, the kind of awareness, now with the inclusion of technology, they're not only studying the village dynamics or the state dynamics or country dynamics, they are studying the world now. So you can see that how they are expanding their horizons, and when it comes to knowing the world, they are very much keeping themselves open to new kind of ideas. And I've seen like remote areas where they wouldn't even know the name of the place of which they're talking about, but they'll certainly talk about the idea that is floating around. Maybe in Spain, maybe in America, they will see some innovative idea or innovative solution for some kind of problem. So the kind of opening up to the world and the challenges the world is facing through and trying to know from them, I think this is an advantage that we not only have today, but we are going to have for the future generations also.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. And as you are speaking about the beauty of India, I'm reminded of my first visit to India, Your Excellency. It was in 1997 that I first landed in India. And I will never forget these impressions of this vibrancy, exactly this energy, this awareness that really is this country. And I think we have lots to learn, especially here in Europe, from India. Now, the topic of learning, David, is your topic. You're helping leaders to grow. You travel frequently. You said you came from India to Davos. What would you say can we, as the rest of the world or as Europe, learn from that great cultural heritage of India, the philosophy, the knowledge of India, and the way Indian leaders today transform the world?
One of the reasons why we're so excited about our work in India is because IMD, much like Switzerland, very much sees itself as a place that convenes and a place that connects. Right, our success is to be connected to influential leaders, transformational enterprises, learn from them, and then distill some of those insights and make them available. What we see in India is a really compelling combination of an embrace of globalization at the same time, with the recognition that your identity, your civilization is yours and anchors your activities. If you just go back a few years, Davos very much represented a view that the world was moving towards one particular point. We had some combination of neoliberal policies, Western management styles, certain types of policies, and one way or another we were going to converge, and everything that was counter evidence was just a bump in the road. I think what we have realized is that is not the path that we're on. The different parts of the world are developing differently, and that richness in itself is a source of innovation and growth. And so what impresses me about Indian leaders is that they can adopt these and strategies as opposed to or strategies, yes. Right? The debate that we have right now in the United States is all about, America first, returning inward. What impresses me about India is the simultaneous embrace of the world, Indian enterprises that are leading, Indian leaders that are heading up global companies in the way we've been discussing, while at the same time being very much mindful of the richness of heritage, of tradition, of ancient civilization that you can draw inspiration from. And I think many of these practices are going to be important for leaders going forward. At IMD, we start many of our programs now with meditation in the morning. You referred to it before, probably you spoke about it also. So again, this ability to learn from others, to absorb, and to come up with a version that works for you, that combines the best that you can find in yourself and around the world is truly distinctive.
Oh, super. Now, dear friends, in preparation, I was thinking, well, we have this illustrious panel. We have the benefit of these people. And I'm asking all these high-flying questions, but can we maybe learn very directly and personally from them? And so I decided, my team was not sure whether it's the right decision, but here I'm coming. I decided to ask a couple of personal questions. And looking at you, Pablo, I know you since a couple of years. Whenever I see you, you seem to be relaxed. You seem to be calm. And I would like to know, what is your recipe? I can tell you, David, you alluded to the topic of meditation. I every morning practice some breathing and meditation. But what is your recipe? How do you find your inner calm?
Thank you. So I wish it is all the time, but it's most of the time. There's no secret, and I think that it starts with, again, what I was saying before, putting my own mask on first, checking in to see, how am I doing from a mental, physical, spiritual perspective. I plan my days very carefully about where I can spend time doing that. So even when I travel, my entire calendar is put around making sure that I have time for that. Doesn't need to be, many hours. It could be 5 minutes only or so. But it's that awareness. It's that awareness of making sure that that is happening. It's the ability to be present, enjoying every single, of course, moment. A lot of things, to be honest with you, are things that I picked up from the India culture. So I visited also India 20 years ago. The entire element of gratitude that you see every single day that you go in India is mind-blowing. I grew up in Argentina, live in the US, a little bit in Europe, and when going to India, it's different league, right, in terms of how everyone is so thankful for everything that they have and doesn't need to be too much. So those are the type of things that I try to embrace every single day. Maybe also building up on that, what I think that is a key ingredient that India has, and that's why we are so positive about the India future, is of course our fundamentals of the infrastructure and the fundamentals of the people and population and size. But then there are two key ingredients which I think are fundamental in the culture of India, which is the intensity. The level of intensity that you see in India is mind-blowing. And we were talking about agile leadership. You need to have high intensity in order to remain agile and to adapt as much as you can. And the second is the intention to progress. We have never had any issues in India when proposing things to either local governments, national governments, about developing new operating models, partnering. We have just partnered with the New Delhi Metro Rail to deliver parcels from the Delhi airport to Delhi city with the train. And it was honestly was a 5 conversations, and that's it. It was, and we are already doing it. So the willingness to progress, the intensity and the intention to progress are two key ingredients that I believe that will make India and will continue making India a superpower.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I believe, Pablo, as a soccer fan, you were definitely pleased also to hear that even Lionel Messi is doing mindfulness and meditation. So it has really even entered the field of sports. Now, talking Agile, as an ambassador who has served in many countries such as Iraq, I believe, around the world, you need to be agile. You need to find yourself comfortable in different places, connect to different people at a very fast pace. What would you say, is there one recipe which has helped you to be able to really feel home and being able to operate in so many different diverse cultures, Your Excellency?
Thank you. I have the extraordinary distinction of being in Iraq when ISIS was in charge of the country. I also had this extraordinary distinction of being in Yemen when the entire country was in shambles with Saudi Arabia, Houthis, UAE, and the rest of the world fighting in that place. We did some good things. In fact, Operation Rahat, which we conducted in 2015, became a gold standard in terms of evacuation of people, nationals in distress, stuck in warlike situations. And in that operation, we took out about 4,800 Indian nationals. And in addition, almost 2,000 foreign nationals, including from P5 countries. India was the only country at that point in time which could talk to the two different warring factions. Even United States, all the P5 countries, they requested us that they can't go in and please take our people out. So this is one example. But now how it happens. The point is how it happens. I traveled from Baghdad to Kabla on road, and you have checkpoints. There were 40 Indian people who were held hostages, so to say. They were killed, actually. Eventually, we discovered that after 2 years. And I was there to negotiate with the friendly ISIS. So these are very difficult circumstances in which you operate, but at the same time, if you know your purpose, and you were talking about the peace, I should say, how do I look at peace and how do I see the purpose connected to my inner peace? So the peace is not something that you look for. You have your inherent state as being blissful, and we call it in our tradition Satchidanand. Sat is the essence of it, the truth of it. And Chit is the consciousness which prevails. And we're all connected with the same consciousness. And bliss is your inherent state. So even in the most trying circumstances, where you don't know that after 1 kilometer of traveling on those ISIS-infested roads, you can be killed. And you have that your purpose is not about saving your life, but your purpose is saving the lives of the 40 people who got stuck there. Then you have this clarity of mind, and then you already have discovered your inner peace without making an effort about it. So I think day before yesterday, I was meeting somebody in the Congress Center, and they asked me, what's your bucket list? I said, I'm emptying my bucket. I'm not putting more things into my bucket. So the point, again, I'm trying to make is, when you have this clarity in your mind, and when you understand things with a degree of awareness, exposed to the toughest circumstances ever that one can be put into, then I think it becomes much easier to deliver without attributing good or bad to it. Because if you look at my leadership right now, how come they are able to achieve things which no other country has been able to achieve? This is because they are not attributing any good or bad to it. They have a purpose, a clear vision, and they are directing the energy of the youth dividend that we have. We have about almost 50% of population below 35 years. So this is bubbling population, bubbling with creative energy. And what is being happening in my country, again, through this awareness, through this inner peace, we are converging those creative energies into a direction where India becomes not only much more prosperous, India becomes a force of global good.
Your Excellency, I will definitely remembering this idea of emptying the bucket list. It could bring me more to the present moment. That should be nice, I think. And that makes us agile when we are really present, right? That's when we are aware of the context and ourselves and the others. Now, I wanted to conclude before we open the floor to questions with you, Your Excellency, the Minister. You mentioned it. At 37, you are minister in the incredible country of India. And the simple question is, how did you do that? What is your leadership mantra, maybe, that you could share with us, your leadership principle that has brought you to the top?
Well, to start with, I had the advantage of coming from a political family. My father was a renowned politician and also a leader for almost 35 years. He was continuously elected to state assembly and the parliament also. So I had a good legacy to follow through. And it was through destiny that I had to come. I never had plans to come into politics, but after untimely demise of my father, I had to take up his position at a young age. But at that time, I was very young when I lost my father. It was at the age of 23. So I had the love, I had the blessings of the people that loved my father, and they all wanted me to continue. And I had the choice right in front of me. Do I take it up or do I not take it up? And being young, being educated, I thought this is something that the youth of the nation, when they're given the opportunity, they have to take it up, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the situation is. So at that point of time, I made a decision that I have to try at least. There is a big opportunity that is being presented to me. And in fact, as a youngster also, you would always want more young leaders to come in. So when the opportunity is at your doorstep, I thought it's you have to take it, and I took it. And I just followed the mantra my father has been following, which he had a very illustrious and successful career with the people. And last 10 years, this is the third time member of parliament. I'm the third time right now. I won in 14, I won in 19, and now 24. So a lot of people don't realize that I already have 10 years experience. In my own party, I'm the senior most member of parliament I have. So it's... Thank you for that. So, but I see the landscape of the whole Indian scenario is changing. People are realizing the power of the youth and the need of the youth to take up the challenges and come forward. And I am one of the examples for that, where the leaders, let it be from my party, chief minister or the prime minister, they all have been very encouraging in my journey all throughout. And as a personal mantra, the way I have seen politics, or the way I've done things, I've always tried to maintain my own personal bank account, just like a physical bank account, and it depends on give and take. Just like credit and debit, I have my own give and take here, and it's what I learned from my father, my immediate society, my parents, is that you should give more and expect less. So I always try to maintain that plus in my bank account of giving more. I think the last 10 years, no matter what I did, I always boiled it down to having that plus in my mind. And no matter if it was a person, it was an organization, how much can you give to them? And that really gave me a lot of satisfaction and a lot of courage to move forward. I think that was very important for me internally. And going back to what was earlier discussed also, in terms of agile leadership, being agile as a person, we are talking about awareness. Much was talked about the physical awareness, knowing what's going around the world, geopolitical situations, technological disruptions, climate changes. But what is also equally important is to be aware inside yourself, how you're changing, how healthy you're being, mind, body, and soul. I think that is one important aspect, and that there is a huge amount of knowledge in that aspect that India has, and it's just being uncovered. We are digging deeper, deeper, deeper into it, and only good is going to come out of it. And we are just having the world experience it right now. So I think no matter where we speak about it, we also have to speak about the mental health, the physical health, the person as he is, and trying to look inwards also. I think that is going to be very important for future, especially the leaders who are going to communicate with other nations, leaders who are going to take very important decisions, which are going to change the landscape of the world. It is very, very important for them to be aware of the soul, mind, and body of themselves.
Wow, thank you so much. Let's give a big round of applause. I'm thinking of your balance sheet. I think you have certainly given us so much this morning. I'm very sorry to hear about your loss. My condolences. Of course, it's long way back. But I think your story also showed me that sometimes when we fall, that makes us maybe stronger. And it seems almost you have taken that legacy from your father, and now you're sharing it with the India, with the world. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now I wanted to open the floor. Maybe we have time for 2 questions. Would you like to raise your hand and go ahead? Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm Shrikesh. To anybody in the panel, I just want to ask, individual leadership is one thing. How do you see agile leadership at a national level, or as a country level, as a whole, as a nation as a whole, or a country as a whole, instead of any individuals? So, any thoughts on that? Thank you.
Well, he's my personal secretary, so I have all the time with him to answer that question.
So the challenge is right with you. Let David.
So I learned about agile leadership at the country level from listening to both of your excellencies this morning. But I would suggest, I cannot demonstrate this to you, but that some of the same principles apply. So if we look at countries that are on the move, and there are many different ones, but what they have in common is a clear sense of who they are and a clear goal of what they're hoping to achieve. And then some flexibility in how they're going to get there. And a recognition that in order to move fast and comprehensively, you need to empower others. So if I look at India again, I'm impressed by the clarity of vision and the empowerment of people in all the different parts of India to move. I think you see this in other parts of the world as well. And I think if I were to be self-critical in Europe, we don't know who we are. We don't know where we're trying to go, but we have very detailed plans that disempower people along the way. So it's the exact opposite of what you would want to see in terms of agile leadership. And of course, we're going to exclude Switzerland from that because
no doubt.
it is no, but jokes aside, Switzerland is different in that respect from some of our larger neighbors who I think struggle much more with who they are and what they're trying to achieve.
Can I add?
Absolutely.
I think agile leadership is not only about leading from the front. It's also about creating an ecosystem in which every individual, as the minister was very rightly pointing out, that in India, everybody is an agile leader. We want every individual to be agile. We are looking at a world where there is a lot of disruption, intended and unintended. and unintended maybe caused by the technological revolution that's happening right now through AI and machine learning and so on and so forth. But the agility of a national leader lies in making sure that the people whom he's leading are also thinking in those direction, and their energies are converged into this larger purpose that he has understood through the awareness that he has.
Yeah, maybe I can add something as well from a company perspective, corporation perspective. It also is important to have the common set of tools that would allow leaders to fully trust each other and make sure that that agile culture and leadership is available. One of the tools that we use is feedback culture. So every single employee in our company is trained on how to receive, which is sometimes more important than given feedback. So everyone follows the same methodology. Is AID, AID, action, impact, and decision. We all know that feedback is a gift. And those are the type of things that create a culture that is much more open to agile leadership and creates a culture of trust that, of course, also también supports the agile leadership as well. So embedding tools and mechanics across the entire organization that can take these big ideas and concepts into practical action is very important.
Thanks a lot. And the last question.
Hi, my name is Vishal. I work for a company called Pearson, which is the world's largest company in the learning and skilling space. So my question is, when we think about agile leadership, I guess curiosity is a big part of it, right? Being curious and learning, and how do you skill people is kind of comes from there. And maybe anybody from the panel, but when you think about skilling, especially in the world of AI, right? And there's so much change going on. What is your perspective on, are we doing enough in the skilling space? What do we need to do differently going forward so that people, and it's not just the tech people, I think the tech thing is being sorted out. There are lots of skilling happening for the tech people, but the wide variety of other people, Pablo, in your company, there are people in field services, customer services, they're all going to be impacted by the wave of AI. So how do we get them to embrace this change, get their skills to that level that they kind of think this is actually an enabler going forward? There is a fear today as well in some of those communities that AI can take away jobs, which probably it will affect some jobs. So anything on the skilling and learning topic, I'll be very curious to hear from you.
I'll just give a very short comment on this. It's a very interesting area. It's for discussing and kind of continuing forward also. This is going to be a very important topic for discussion. One thing, the way we see it is like you can divide the skills into soft skills and hard skills. Hard skills is exactly what major focus is on what the person has to learn so that he can do his job effectively and try to find the opportunities of finding a job. But how do we deal with the challenge of the hard skills continuously changing? The whole fact that we are talking about agile leadership is because of the rapidly changing environment. How do you enable is, again, going back to that soft skill, making him more communicative with the environment, making him more aware and making him stronger to adapt. I think if you can prepare the individual that whatever you're learning, you might have to unlearn and quickly learn something else. If you can put that attitude in that person, that is where you have to simultaneously prepare him with the soft skills, prepare him for the way forward. This is a little bit more deeper thought process that you have to instill. Learning to unlearn and learn again. So this is some aspect that you have to put in his mind of anyone today. It has to be me also. As a leader, I have to unlearn some things because I've seen politics. I've seen from the day I started politics in 2014, this scenario was totally different. The way I would speak to my people, the way I would communicate to my constituents, the way the society reacted to things, and the way the environment had a play on the whole scenario. So I also had to unlearn a lot of things and learn a new way of communication. This is something which we have to add to every single person. And the best way to probably do it is to start young, especially at the school level. You're trying to prepare him that you're not having yourself prepared for a career which is a straight line. It's not A to B. and you have to, it's probably A to Z, and you have B, C, D, E, F, and so many different ways. So you have to prepare the individual for the path which is going forward.
Thank you so much. Well, with that, we are coming to an end of what was a fascinating discussion. I have prepared a whole resume, but I'm going to say only two things. One, Your Excellency, I'm leaving here with an increased readiness to unlearn, really. And two, I learned so much from all of you. I think, you know, here in Davos, we talk about future, and you have given me hope, indeed. I think we have spent time, all of us, online, the thousands viewing, and all of us in this room have spent time with incredible leaders, which can give us hope that there is a bright future. Let's give them a big round of applause. And when we can stand together and take a picture. No, wait a moment. I have now, in all this excitement, I have not thanked the people I need to thank. I want to thank the Embassy of India here in Switzerland, and want to thank Sunita and Invest India for an incredible contribution. Jessica and the whole team, incredible, really. I want to thank IMD, Delia, for putting all that together, and the Art of Living Foundation and its team, the tech team, Ewald, Filippo, Vanessa, all the team. Thanks a lot. So. Also.
Policy about family policy recycling from family of pilots. Really? The system national looked into that was both looked into the assistance to advance 5840 license. Our job is much cooler than it's
Then let's smile and take a picture.
Can you look at me, please? Thank you. I just want to cover this water. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful. Thanks for letting you know. Thank you. Thanks for you.